Evening, everyone. It's about 5:45, and this is your closing comment for today, Thursday, the 16th. This is video number 334, and we'd like it if you would just hit that subscribe button. Okay, so we had a bunch of economic news this morning. Uh, we had positive numbers on employment, both initial claims and continuing claims. We also had retail sales up 7.5% versus an expected up 5.2. Philly Fed numbers were a little better, and after this morning's video, later in the morning, we had the NAHB housing number, which was 72, which was up 14 and substantially better than the 62 that was expected. Business inventories came in exactly as expected at 2.3%. So that's where we started. The market, on the other hand, was down from the get-go. We rallied back to close down only 135 in the Dow, which was 0.5%. NASDAQ, which was down about 1.5% during the day, finished down only 76.66. 0.75%. The S&P was down 1/3% at minus about $11. The Russell was down also around $11, but that was 0.75%. And the transports, on the back of some of the companies like UPS and FedEx, actually finished up 53.95, or about a little over 0.5%. After the close, we had Netflix numbers, which were lower than expected, but more importantly than that, guidance for the next quarter was exceedingly poor. The stock, which had closed around 512, traded all the way back down to 450. The last is about 472, down 50. But you have to take into consideration that this stock went from 432 to 575 in about 9 days. So this is that was a little excessive, and the disappointment also is excessive. But I would mention that the low trade of 450 is actually right on the 50-day moving average. PPG beat both top and bottom, but of course those were estimates that had been dramatically lowered. And as you know, I don't consider lowering expectations to a point where you almost have to beat them to be a beat. Year over year, they were down 24% in revenues. The stock came off the lows in March at 70 and had traded up to 115.26, where it closed today. Currently, it's about 120, up 480, or 4.2%. As I mentioned last night, the airlines and the cruise lines were up, and I cannot understand any reason for them to be excited about the coming season for the next year or 18 months. And today, the first thing that happened was the CDC said cruise ships will not be allowed in U.S. waters until at least October. So there will be no cruises coming here. Carnival was down 9.8%, Royal Carib was down 7.6%, and Norwegian 16%. The airlines fared pretty much know better. I heard somebody talk about, they're borrowing money and they have strong balance sheets that will, quote, carry them to the other side. There is no other side for the airlines. The money that they're raising, both in debt and in equity, will be completely dissipated before they come anywhere near um, getting back to where they were. And I cannot imagine that at least a couple of them will have to go bankrupt. And frankly, we saw this in the automobile business. The companies that went bankrupt and got rid of all their debt certainly outperformed Ford, who did not. So, rah rah, Ford didn't wipe out the equity, but now cannot perform. American was down 7.4%. LUV, Southwest Airlines, was down 4.3%. Delta was down 4.7%. JetBlue was down 4.6%. There was news this afternoon after the close that American and JetBlue are forming an alliance that will allow them to book on each other's airline, and so that will help both of them, specifically in the Northeast. So it's a very solid share deal in the Northeast. We'll see how those act tomorrow. Also, on the earnings side, we had both Bank of America and Morgan Stanley. They were mixed results. Bank of America closed 23.93, down 67 cents or 2%, while Morgan Stanley, on the back of their proprietary trading, closed 52.64, up $1.29 or 2.5%. The deal with Dell possibly spinning off VMware, which I mentioned this morning, and same thing as with the vaccines. Every time somebody says something, they forget that that was said 3 months ago or 6 months ago or a year and 6 months ago. So Dell closed 59.10, up $6.42 on that news that they're thinking about spinning off VMware, which they got from EMC. So Dell was up 12.2% on that news, and VMware was up 17 cents. So really nothing there. ACIU, that I mentioned this morning, the company that has an Alzheimer drug, it closed at 8.55, up $1.36 or 19% after trading $13. So it gave back quite a bit of it. The oil was down about a half a dollar. Gold was down 13 and a half. I have this chart of the dollar that I've had up here every day recently. And as you can see, it was down well below 96 again today. This is a weekly, but it did make that low today and bounced all the way back up. This green line here is the 200-day moving average. If it closes up on the day or solidly above that, we may get another test of the break. And, I really don't see it happening that way, but clearly it could. I want to go over and show you what the gold looks like, because we have a position there, and it was down $13.50 today. But as has been the case for the last couple of weeks, where it's been up, this is also a weekly. It gets back down here. Today's low was 1784. This low was for the week, was earlier in the week, 1782. It continues to pop back up. This is a very short range week, and we've had a couple of those consolidating after the breakout. Just to give you an idea of what it looks like on a daily basis, as you can see, we're coming up to this trend line again, and this orange line is the 20-day moving average. And I just don't see it rolling over. I think it may take another day or two of consolidation, but I see the gold much higher. Silver, the same situation. In fact, the silver has been outperforming the gold by a mile. The other day, when gold was up 1%, the silver was up 3.5%. Same situation, except that we really haven't pulled back that much. Today's low at 1947 and the close 1951 and change. Could we see 1920, even maybe a test of the breakout at 1900? That's a possibility, but we've taken a nice profit out of the silver a couple of times, and I will keep a close eye on that. Also, after the Netflix move, after the close on the earnings, we had more weakness in a couple of the other big names. Amazon, which traded as low as 29.18 today, down almost 3%, came all the way back to close 29.97. Since the news on Netflix, it has fallen back to 29.64. So instead of being down 9, it's now down 42 again. Apple, which also had an okay close, down about $3.50 or $4, is currently trading 481, and that's down 7. So we'll have to see how these things shake out overnight and what the futures look like. And I'll be back first thing in the morning. Don't forget to subscribe, and have a good evening.